with you all in this little kitchen setup here. It's probably about like 20 by. No, wait, this is larger. This is like a 40 by like 100-foot room here, right? Each of those are 10. Yeah, I feel like each of these are 10. You are inside of this area where the ceilings are frozen ice, the walls are frozen ice around stone. I guess realistically, yeah, there is stone inside of the ceilings as well as the floors in this place. The doors are like, what is that, 12 foot or so wide kind of thing, 25 feet tall, in a little arch kind of like, not portcullis, but arch doorway. Effectively, these are all glass or all ice doors. Extremely heavy, no locks, no real handles. There's kind of like grooves in them where you can get a little bit of grip. But otherwise, you all are inside of this little room. There is some stew in a kettle on top of the fire. You guys have kind of come inside, shut the door behind you. What would you like to do inside of this little room you got to yourselves?
I think Brannick had gone to check, wanted to see kind of uh what might be cooking. I know, I think it had smelled pretty good. Um,
Yeah, I feel like I gave you wholesome. I feel like it gave you like nice and fresh smelling, that it smelled delicious. I'd say as far as things go, like looking into it, um, what you're probably looking at like some sort of like maybe like a lentil kind of stew that seems to have um some mix of like herbs and spices. Probably something like whale blubber, or there's, you know what I mean, like some sort of fat content, like meat content inside of there. um but yeah, it seems like normal food that you would make. I think maybe the kettle would be kind of the size of Valixis type of thing. It's extremely large. Everything in this place is very large. Any other thoughts about what you're looking for when you go to approach this? Kind of stir it around, see if there's any human arms in it.
that was kind of his fear. Yeah.
Yeah, make sure we're not doing a Conan the Barbarian thing here.
Yeah, I'd say this is a solid. There might be like a few big chunks of some sort of sea creature's flesh, where you can see like these, what are to you like extremely large chunks of meat. To the scale of these things might just be like big chunks of meat. I'd say you have a solid sense that they are sea creatures, in that there's like the skin, blubber, and then actual meat. But there is that solid fatty layer of like 2 or 3 inches showing you this is a cold water creature. But stirring through it, I think that's kind of like the mass majority of what you find in it is like small and basically just like the mush of the soup. And then there's, maybe like 1 or 2 big chunks of this meat that's adding like fat and flavor to it.
Right. So Brannick's next thought is that whoever put this on might be coming back fairly soon. Perhaps we should consider, if we're going to, wait and see who it is, or try and, is there anywhere within the room that like it looks like it might be possible to try to conceal ourselves behind, like any furniture or anything like that?
It doesn't really have furniture. You could certainly do something trying to conceal yourselves behind some of the like crates of materials. You could hide under the table. but I don't think you're going to look around and see a solid place that is a welcoming place to hide.
So Brannick will turn to the others and kind of, oh, what do you think?
Well, we're already in here. It would be wrong to take someone else's food. I'm definitely a little hungry. I don't think they'll mind if a little scoop. If they're missing like a little scoop, I don't think it's gonna make too much of an impact. Um, what it's up to y'all though. I leave that decision to y'all.
Well, I was thinking more along the lines of, do we wait for whoever's stew it is to return, try to speak with them, or
They can't have gone far if they've left their soup on the stove.
That's true. We could wait here for them, or we could go look for them. Either way, we're not gonna be able to avoid them forever.
Perhaps we should investigate the room to the south of here while we're waiting.
that might not be a bad idea. Maybe try and keep an eye out in case they return. But for now, we try and get back out of here.
You can assist me with the door, Brannick. Try to open it back up and head into the hallway.
Yep, Brannick will move to help him.
With the two of you on the door, you can slide it pretty seamlessly. Same idea. It's a little bit more difficult to get it moving. Once you have a little bit of momentum, it's pretty easy to keep it moving. But yeah, you can effectively open the door, I think, inward, and make your way back out to the hallway. If you are still carrying the torch, Brennick, you again have kind of a view of the hall extending off to the north. There seems to be about a 10 or so foot wall that opens up just beyond, like to the north of you, and then the walls actually kind of tee from your perspective to the right and left in that little hallway. But you have the door to the south of you that's on the east side, and then way at the bottom of this hallway, there's a door that heads to the left, that's on the west side of this hall.
Yeah, so Brannick will start heading down to that door to the south, following Fenn's suggestion.
And are Brennick and Fen going to take the time to open the door together?
I just want to
Yep.
pause and listen before we attempt to open.
Make a perception check, please. Taking a moment, get close to the door, kind of ear next to a crack. Take a moment to listen. Sounds pretty normal. Maybe a little bit of kind of whirling from the winds out and about beyond the actual keep here. But otherwise it seems to be a empty room.
So Brannick's gonna, just so he has both hands free, cast Mage Hand to have the hand hold the torch, like kind of just outside the door, while he helps Fen if Fen still wants to open it.
Yeah, we'll give it a push.
And is Velixis staying close to them? What are you thinking over there, Velixis?
Yeah, but this is just gonna stay a little close to them, just kind of just following behind.
Gotcha. And where do you guys want Valine? Is nearby? Does that look good where she's at?
Yeah, if you can kind of maybe like keeping an eye out, in case someone comes from that hallway to the north.
Gotcha. So you can place Velixis where you would like to have Velixis at. Wherever she is, she is. As the two of you push this door open, you are going to very quickly see as the light scatters through this room, kind of filling up about a 30 by 30 foot space here. Pretty open and empty room. There is a single kind of shadow in the northeastern side of the room where you all see a large crate is kind of pushed up against the wall, and sitting on top of it is about a 25-foot tall figure that is kind of like hunched over, leaning on its right arm, and doesn't seem to react as you open the door.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I have a little bit of an issue. Roll 20 up, but I cannot move my icon.
Gotcha. That look good enough for you, kind of behind them?
Yep, that's perfectly fine.
Does it appear to be one of the ice sculptures or a different kind of creature?
Looking over this creature, its flesh seems to be kind of a pale white, but this creature is wearing actual, like, leather tunics. It has a massive battle axe in its left hand, that the head of the axe is kind of leaned up against the floor, um, and it's almost like leaning with its hand, like kind of like offset its weight, kind of leaned across against this axe, and it seems to be kind of staring into the wall in the southeast. As far as things go, it could be frozen, but this is not the same as the ice sculptures that you have seen. It's neither like that translucent blue ice, nor is it like an opaque white ice. This is not a uniform creature. It seems to be wearing clothing. Flesh tones otherwise fit a lot of the like coloring, um, but this seems different.
So Brannick's gonna kind of startle a bit as he catches sight of this figure for the first time, and then kind of when it doesn't seem to react immediately, he's going to kind of glance towards Fen and Velixis, and then kind of uh, slowly start to kind of tentatively move inside, kind of watching the creature to see if it reacts as he moves a little bit closer or comes into the room.
So as you all see Brennick starting to take these first tentative steps forward, what is the reaction of both Fen and Velixis?
Be be careful. You don't know who or what that thing is. Not trying to provoke someone right now.
I think Fen would say, greetings. We don't mean to disturb you and hope that we are well met. And follow Brannigan.
So as Brannick steps in, Brannick, you're not going to notice anything with like your initial steps. You'll see maybe the slightest bit of a reaction from the creature as Velixis says, "Be careful." And then when you hear Fen start to say greetings, the face is actually going to start to turn towards you. You're going to see a pretty large visage, probably about like 4 or so feet of like just face. This creature is extremely large. You have a very close up like view of it. You're still probably 20 feet away from it, and it's still much taller than you, even as it sits in front of you. But you're much closer than you would be if it were standing, and you were even like directly at its feet. Roll a perception for me, Brennick. So, as you are kind of tentatively moving in, you see these initial kind of movements from it. You see as the creature seems to look over towards you all. It doesn't seem to react and immediately start to um stand or take like a offensive movement, but you do see this slow, methodical moment where the muscles do start to tense. It is starting to pick up weight and actually start to stand to its feet. And all of you are going to hear, in kind of a low, booming voice that you don't quite recognize, um, probably about 5 or so syllables coming out of this creature's voice before it kind of stands at the ready and it's starting to lift the weight of its axe and face towards you all.
So the Brannick, hearing the, this language he doesn't understand, is going to kind of hold up his hands in a hopefully kind of non-threatening manner, kind of shaking his head. Can you speak common? He'll ask in common.
Roll a persuasion for me at disadvantage, please. The creature doesn't even flinch, doesn't seem to react in the least bit to your statement.
Brannick will glance towards Flynn, or Fen, sorry.
And I'll repeat that in Dwarvish and Elvish.
Roll a persuasion at disadvantage here. As you repeat it, no reaction from the creature.
I think Brannick at this point is going to start moving backwards, back out towards the entrance, still kind of keeping an eye on the creature. Well, kind of like trying to feel his way, like about, the entrance again, kind of thing.
I think after a few seconds of having stood up, probably vaguely about like a turn later, about like 6 seconds of kind of just like this null silence where you guys are saying things, it doesn't seem to be responding, and it's just kind of silently looking towards you. In kind of a flash, it's going to swing its axe, and the axe is going to fly above your heads, well above your heads. But as it kind of sweeps over your heads, brings it back under control, you can kind of get like a sense for like the weight of this thing and the power of this swing. But on some sense, it never actually swung towards you. But what are you all going to do?
We should leave. Like, now.
Brannick will kind of in common again, just kind of not sure if it can understand him, like not mean to disturb you, and kind of continue moving back out. Not sure whether that was a meant to be a warning, a threat, um, also just like a demonstration. But he is kind of the same initial idea as Felixis for now. Kind of let's just back out here.
Roll another persuasion for me at disadvantage, please. As you're stepping a little bit further out of the room, you're going to notice a point where you kind of like hit a little bit of rubble in the hallway and almost like scrape it across the floor. And as soon as your foot kind of makes this like flash of noise, you're going to see the face of this creature like lurch right into that direction.
Brannick's gonna kind of seeing this, glancing towards Fenvelixis. Do you think she's kind of as quietly as he can, like whispering to them, like she's blind? Now he's thinking maybe she swung that axe just at instinctively at what she would presume is the threat level.
As you go to speak and ask them, do you think it's blind? It doesn't seem to react to you saying anything.
I don't think it'd be a good idea for us to try to find out right now. Best bet is to back out of here and close that door as quietly as possible.
I guess Fen will follow Brannick's lead and start backing up slowly.
Gotcha. So, like, as Brannick kind of leads the way, sort of out of this room, you'll see that times like this giant is moving almost beyond you, kind of reaching out towards like the sound of like the scraping across the floor. Um, you're like next to it at times, and it doesn't seem to be reacting to you. But you guys can kind of step away. It's kind of taken one step towards the door, Still probably about 15 or so feet away from it.
Is there any of the rubble at Fenn's feet, like a stone or a pebble or something?
What are you looking for? Tell me why.
I was gonna toss it into the corner to see if she would react to that.
You can 100% do that, and she will look to that corner.
She seems to be tied to the physical location of this place, or at least only responds, as far as I can tell, to it.
Let me have you roll a d20 for me, actually. Yeah, I'd say it takes you a few throws where you throw like a small little pebble, makes a couple of little like noises, no reaction. The moment you throw like a larger rock and there's actually like a big heavy thunk, that's when she looks.
And what's the demeanor? Does she look angry? Does she look placid? Is she any kind of expression or emotion?
Roll a insight. This is a creature of equanimity. Their expression is neither angry nor happy. They don't seem frustrated nor are they amused. They're just kind of present in the moment with just like a stern face.
Perhaps we should leave her be for now. Had some time, I could have something that would let me understand what she's saying, but unfortunately wouldn't seem to be able to either understand or hear what we're saying or care.
Just say. I told you we should have left the meeting, though. We still here.
Well, we've traveled all this way for information. If there's some to be had, but apparently there is none.
I mean, we could still. I don't mind us still searching the rest of it. I was just referring to this room when we saw that creature in there immediately. I'm just like, we should have immediately left that room alone. Leave that person alone when they didn't respond. I mean, we can always search the rest of the area.
Should we? You think she'd react if we asked Celine in her current size to show herself? I mean, you don't have to actually speak. Is there a giant language? Sure.
The giants do indeed have a language of their own. I do not share knowledge of it, though. I cannot help you. I'm very sorry.
Brennan's going to suggest maybe we, leave this creature be for now. If we could return to the other room or continue, exploring, it might be a good idea just in case. If we can spare the time, Brennick, it would take him 10 minutes to cast a spell that would allow him to at least understand. Perhaps if they encountered hear anything else in the language that you couldn't normally understand. Won't allow two-way communication, but might be better than nothing. We kind of retreat back into that room to the north with the stew.
Gotcha. Are you all shutting the door behind you on this lower room?
Yes.
Felix says you can't close it, so you can say yes, but you need other people to do it.
Close the door. Make sure y'all close the door behind y'all. We don't want anyone knowing that we went in there.
I would agree to close the door.
Brennick will go to help Fen then.
Gotcha. So, vaguely in the time that it takes you all to close that door, as you're kind of getting towards the next door, you're going to see as this creature is stepping out of these doors, having pushed them open and stepped out into the hallway. I think it'll take a moment to look to the south. Then it looks to the north. And then it's going to slowly start walking towards the north.
That was odd.
Well, by walking north, I mean it's walking towards us, right?
Indeed, yep. Assuming something to look like this, approximately. As you guys move from that southern door to the northern door, it is basically opening that southern door, stepping out into the hall, looking south, looking north, and then starting to walk to the north.
Like seeing this, Fennel speak out and say, head to the northern corridor and start backing up to the northern corridor.
Brennick will kind of follow his lead. Seems like maybe her senses might be dimmed. He's going to suggest maybe if we can move quietly enough, perhaps she won't be able to, so she, has difficulty either seeing or hearing us or both. Perhaps if we try and move quietly, we can.
So as you all start to move into that northern room, towards where it kind of tees, and there's that lower wall up above you, as you start to bring kind of the light into the room, you'll see that that room has a lot of like stalagmites that are broken off the ground and kind of scattered across the ground like icicles. There's shattered ice. There's icicles growing from the ceilings. It very much almost resembles kind of like the inside of an Iron Maiden, where there's just spikes protruding in all directions. And as you kind of like step into this little room, you're just going to hear. So where are you all stepping as you walk into there? And where do you want Valine to go?
Probably like straight back as well, sticking close to us.
Felix is gonna stay close behind.
If you all would be so kind to select your character and roll initiative.
Kerthud.
What the fuck? Did roll 20 get rid of the add token? How do I add it to initiative? Dirty bastards. Oh my god, they did. Can't select multiple creatures and just simply add them to initiative now. That's very silly.
Then Beyond is still giving me issues. And I still can't select my token.
Gotcha. Can you roll a d20 inside of roll 20? And what is it? You've got a +3 dexterity, so you should have 6. Where do you
Okay.
where do you want your token to be?
I'll keep her in the back for now. She'll stand behind everyone.
Gotcha. But behind everybody, like, do you want to be on the south of everybody, or behind everybody you want to be on the north of everybody? Because there's multiple behinds everybody here.
South.
Gotcha. Alrighty. So from right above you, there is going to be a moment where you see, like, as one of these stalactites is like shaking from the ceiling, and it starts to fall down to the ground before you are going to notice that this is a creature that's like extending out its wings. It has a pointy, sharp face, and like the shape of this icicle was just its wings of like glassy, clear blue ice, kind of unfolding to show this like gangly, small body of like a white and blue as it is going to fly down, and it is going to see who would be 5. Oh wait, I don't have a Valine in there. Somebody roll a d20 for Valine. So it is going to attack Fen. As it flies down, it is going to swipe out at you. big ol' miss as it like slashes you with its claws before kind of returning back into like the like outskirts of this ceiling of spiky bits before you can't really tell where it is, only kind of what it might have been. And over the next few seconds, there's going to be a few of these as the next one is going to swoop down. And this one is going to unleash a bout of icy cold breath into the air. It should hit all three of you. Can I please have all four of you? Can I please have a dexterity saving throw? So, Brennick and Rashad, you're both taking 3 cold damage. Or Rashad, you're actually going to take 1. My apologies. Brennick, you'll take 3. Ben, you're going to take 1 as well as will Valine. And this creature's going to do the same as it returns, kind of flying up into the outskirts of the room. By the time it lands, it looks just like every other stalagmite in the room. Another one is going to swoop down. This one is going to slash at Velixis. It is going to claw into you. And it will do 2 slashing damage to you and 1 cold damage to you. Before flying up into the ceiling and kind of disappearing into these stalagmites. And the final one is going to swoop down, exhaling its icy cold breath over all of you. Same thing, let me get a dexterity saving throw from the 3 of you, please. So, Rashad, you are going to take 2. The others of you are going to take 4 cold damage. And Valine's taking 8. So right now, 4 of these stalagmites or stalactites have come off of the ceiling, swooped down around you all. 2 of them have exhaled their breath. 2 of them have slashed out at you with claws. They all seem to have disappeared back into the features of this room. The giant is still walking towards you. Valine is up. What do you want to happen here?
Seeing as we can't pick out any, seems like we can't pick out any specific targets among these things.
Yeah, mechanically, it's going to be disadvantaged to attack, hoping that you know where they are.
Yeah, so thinking, I don't know if Feline has any area of effect kind of things that might, kind of shoot up towards the ceiling.
Pretty limited effect. She could.
I mean, I guess the other option is to hold an attack and wait for another one to fly down and attack it if it flies back down at them.
Certainly an option.
Like maybe if she doesn't have like something that's going to be particularly effective as an area of effect, she might do that. Just kind of like be like looking at the ceiling, like get a weapon at the ready, like waiting to swat something out of the air if it comes back down at them, kind of thing. What do you guys
Part
think?
of what I'm saying with her limited effect is this is taking her top spell slot. So if you want to use a top spell slot on this, sure, she could do something. But me playing Valine, making decisions for her, there's no way she's doing it.
Yeah, no, I think I mean so far they've been more of an annoyance than like they're not,
Yeah.
causing tons of damage. So I would not. Yeah, I would not want to
You
waste
guys
her.
have gotten injured in the ways that you can injure yourself cutting your fingernails.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's not worth a high level spell slot.
So does it sound good to the others? She's going to cast the cantrip and hold it for the first thing to move,
That sounds good.
or rather, the first thing to fly down. Specifically, that would avoid casting it at the giant.
Yeah, I think the latter, first thing to fly down.
Sound good to Ben?
Yep.
Alrighty. So Valine is going to basically summon her undead arms. You'll see as she kind of like seems to have her like second set of arms as she casts this cantrip, and she is essentially holding this spell. It's gonna go to Brennick.
Yeah, so you're going to see Brennick kind of like holding his hand out to the side. You'll see him like fingers start to move, kind of a tiny little ball of flame start to appear, and he's going to similarly be holding a fire bolt ready to blast it at the first thing he sees coming out from the ceiling, swooping down at them, I should say. And I think he's going to move to kind of start moving a little towards the side of the room.
It's gonna be the slow, quiet lumbering as the giant paces the hallway. Another of these creatures is going to swoop down, claw out at Brannick. What is that? 16 to hit. I believe that is your AC.
Yep, that hits. Would I have been able to get off the firebolt as well? Is the reaction held spell?
Oh, yep. I muted myself there. Yep, your firebolt and her chilling touch will both go off. So she is a spell attack with chill touch. So she'll miss. Yours will hit.
But yeah, 16 does hit me. I don't know if they happen at the same time or what the kind of order is.
Yeah, I don't think of reactions as like preventative damage. It's definitely all the same time to me. I like the idea that all of the turns should happen and you resolve like a turn before creatures actually die off. But I feel like reactions are definitely where it should take place at the same time. It's how like you get like the double knockout where each of you hit the button on the other one at the same time. So let's see. Brennick, roll 66 for me. You want to get under 24. All right, so as you blast into this creature with your firebolt, you're going to see as like an entire chunk of its lower torso is like burned away before the ice that kind of makes up its legs are going to drop to the ground before shattering into ice. The upper torso still flying around. This creature is mortally wounded, but the fire was extremely effective. And it's going to hit you for 4 piercing damage, or 4 slashing damage, and 2 cold damage.
All right.
And that should put us on Velixis. Same idea. This one is swooping down, making these attacks, and it is basically retreating off into the kind of rafters of this room.
Okay, so she doesn't have a view of where any of them are right now, correct?
You can certainly attack them, but you don't see them now.
Okay, then I'm gonna take this in reaction. I'm going to prepare a firebolt and fire it at the first thing to fly down from the ceiling.
Gotcha. If you are moving, you can do so. Otherwise, it's going to go to Fen.
I know she's not moving. She's gonna stay where she's at.
Ben is going to pull out his sword and yell out to the others. It seems like we're stuck between a rock and a hard place, but there are stairs leading down. Perhaps we should continue our exploration and evade. And is going to move to the top of the staircase. And ready an attack for anything that comes for me.
Another one going to swoop down over Brennick. This one should hit you. It is going to up. It's just the first of those second 2D. Solid 3 ones. It's going to do 2 piercing, 1 cold damage to you. As this one flies down past you. Let's see. The next 4. Was that one on Velixis? I feel like. Let's see. 2 of these are going after Valine. Neither of those are going to hit. One's at Brennick, that'll hit, and one's at Velixis, that will miss. Brennick, you're going to take another 8 damage, 4 of it slashing, 4 of it cold. I don't think it should matter as far as what's being done. But that will be the end of Valine's turn. Do you want Valine to take a different position? Oh wait, my bad. That's not the end of Valine's turn. That's the end of the Mephit's turns as they kind of cycle back around to Valine. Besides,
I think Felixis should get a firebolt off too, right?
yes, my bad. Reaction time, Felixis, you can make your firebolt.
Okay. Real quick, I know you said that last one, not the 3. I think the 6 was from me, but you said one other where you said this was going to attack Fa, but it get cut off at Fa, so I'm not sure if you said Valine or Felixis for that one prior to the 6.
I think I had 2 attack you, and no, 2 of them were on Valine, 1 was on you, and 1 was on Brennick of those 4.
Okay, just making sure.
So assuming Valine is going to hold an action for their turn, roll 66 for me, Velixis. Valine can hold for the next creature to try to attack on it. Do you want Valine to move at all? Do you guys want Valine to change that strategy at all?
I feel like Valine wouldn't be too keen to move closer to the giant, but I think if anything, she'd probably follow Fen's suggestion. Start moving towards the staircase.
Yeah, Rashad, you should not roll hit points for your enemies.
What's that, 30 something?
Yeah, he is 4 short of maximum hit points.
You told wait, is that why you were having to roll a 66?
Yep.
Oh dear God. Why? Why is my luck good for the enemy? Oh my God.
And that is going to take us to Brennick.
All right, so Brannick's gonna start moving.
So 32, 24, 8.
And I think as he's gonna actually, you know, kind of like towards like, Blix is like, follow Fen, but he's gonna move closer to the giant. And he is going to kind of pulling out a coin from his pouch real quick, kind of holding it between his fingers. He's going to go and cast detect thoughts in the giant's direction, trying to get a sense of what it's like. Is it
First one is surface thoughts.
yes?
You have to speak the same language, or you understand it regardless.
I think as long as it speaks a language, but let me double check.
So I think regardless here, you're basically going to get death. We meet at last. And assuming that is the extent of your turn, this creature is just going to walk up, damn near like stumbling, like stepping over you. Never touches you, never notices you. Or this one is swooping down at Brennick. Valine's gonna shoot at it. That's gonna miss. And that should take us to Valixis.
Felix is gonna cast an ice knife to second level ice knife on the one to her upper right that's closest to her.
Give me one moment here. Six of them. Gotcha. Roll to hit. My bad. In the future, if I say give me one moment here, you can still roll the attack. So bam, that will hit. So total of 16 to the one, and the other one's taking the 14. Yeah, so you are going to see as you smash into this creature, takes the slightest bit of damage, but otherwise seems unaffected. The other creature that gets caught up in the blast seems unaffected. Any movement from Velixis? Otherwise, it's going to go to Fen.
She's gonna stay right there for now.
And you've got pops and explosions all around you. Nothing swooped down on you in particular there, but they've still been swooping. What would you like to do?
I am going to reiterate my stance that perhaps we should just leave the area, and I'm going to head down once. I'm going to head down 2 steps and then ready my action to attack anything that attacks me.
Alrighty. One creature is going to swoop down and with its breath is going to exhale into Valine and Finn. Let me get dexterity saving throws from the two of you, please. Crushing those nat ones. And then 3, 5, 4, 5. Oh, why was I thinking there were 5 of you? There's 4 of you. I can count. 5. Yeah, just going 1 on each of you. That's the perfect number for it to play out like that. So we're gonna go down the list of Valine, Brennick, Velixis, Fen. 16 hit you, Fen, when you have not made your attack. I think that's your AC.
No, AC is 18.
So it's 18 when you make your bonus attack.
No, straight up 18. 20 when I. +10 +4 dex and +4 wisdom.
And then Brennick, a 17 hits you.
Yep.
That is going to do 4 slashing and 1 cold damage to you. But 1 is attacking you, Fen. You can swipe at it with your sword.
How much did I take from the ice? I take it 14 dexterity save. I missed that.
Oh no, that one's the pass. Did I roll 2d4?
Was that the 2
1
natural
damage.
ones? 1?
Yep.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, here comes the sword attack. And remember, that's only 5 damage.
Yeah, I got it. It's gonna go to Valine from there. What would you all like Valine to do?
Seems like she's gonna kind of do what she's been doing. Hold a cantrip.
Does that sound good to you guys?
Yes.
Hmm. All right. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, she'll hold that. I think she's going to say, if we're going to leave, now would be the time. And it's going to go to Brennick.
Brannick's gonna he's gonna start moving. He's gonna look back at like Velixis, like fire, Velixis, fire. Yeah, there. And how high up is the ceiling?
30 feet. Kind of like a semi-dome, so like parts of the walls kind of blend into the ceiling, but approximately 30-foot ceiling.
So
Oh, was I muted there? Did you hear me? 30-foot ceiling?
yep. Sorry, no, I heard you. I was just thinking. Yeah, I think Brannick is going to kind of um these things have become a little bit more of an annoyance at this point, and I don't seem to be able to be hitting them too often. He's gonna throw out his hand, and he's just gonna be like kind of aiming at a spot near like the center of the ceiling, and he is gonna launch a fireball, trying to just clear out like the stalactites and hoping to hit some of these things in the process. Um,
Uh, you can roll that damage. Your DC is 15 right now.
Sorry, yep, 15. And then I was thinking kind of like the center of the ceiling. So I don't know if that would be somewhat kind of near where
I
that
gave you
creature
all
is.
of them.
Oh, okay. I didn't want to try and like metagame and hit them all, or so I was just thinking center of the room would be make the most sense.
Yeah, part of the problem with, like for instance, with Velixis, I gave like an area of effect table. When you have 6 targets, you hit 2. That's how I did the knife, because the creatures are not where they are on this map. But as far as a fireball goes, I'm pretty sure if you put a fireball in the center of the ceiling, you are hitting this entire room. Um, Basically saying you can go without burning and hurting your friends. I think that's easy enough to do, where it's effectively at the ceiling. So I feel like that's, you use the good spell, you can definitely take them, hit them all. You are going to drop 1, 2. What is that? 16, 17 damage is half.
17,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think you're gonna drop all of them. Because even if they save, they're taking 34. Yeah, yeah. You're just going to watch as there's just a massive like shattering of a bunch of these different stalagmites growing out of the ceiling. Among the places where you had put like creatures having had like kind of recently flown, you'll see most of these shattering coming from those areas. You have a pretty good idea that you've destroyed actual ice just as much as whatever these living creatures are as well. Um, and I think that'll be the end of your turn.
Yep, that's all my movement, and that's everything he can do.
The giantess is going to continue to walk forward, and at some point she is going to stumble into Velixis, and she is going to swing her axe into the small little kobold for the first is going to miss. 13 hit you?
Yep.
So 2 quick like slashes out as she kind of stumbles over the small little kobold. The first is going just a little bit wide, and before you even recognize that she's swinging again, a second axe is going to slam down. She's going to do 26 points of slashing damage to you. And it is on you, Blixus. I think as she kind of stands after that, you guys are just going to hear that same language and just like a slow, long inhaling, like draw of breath. This is somebody who's living for the first time in a long time. They are taking great joy to swinging this weapon again. What are you doing, Velixis?
After that incident, Phyllis kind of jumps back into the hallway, and she casts comprehend languages on herself and asks, "What's going on? Why did you attack me?"
Y'all trying to avoid a conversation to save a level 1 spell slot. Amateurs.
But I think it's because of the limits of the. Well,
Well,
Brannick only
I
casts
know
ritual.
you don't have yours prepared, so you had to ritual cast it.
But it also doesn't. It's not a two-way. It's not like tongues is the one that actually lets you speak. You only understand what they say, but it doesn't give you the ability, as far as I know, to converse.
That's what I was thinking. When
Look,
Velixis said that's still in common.
I be forgetting I got comprehend languages. Okay. It's one of the ones I always have prepared, but I always forget I have.
That'll take us to Fen.
Fen is going to hold his ground and hold his action for anything that attacks him.
What do you all want Valine to do?
I think Valine, seeing the giant attacking Velixis, will retaliate. I'm not sure if she had what spells exactly she has offensively, aside from like the chill touch one.
Roll a d20 for me, Brannick. Are we looking to run, or are we looking to fight? We need to make the decision. And she is going to kind of like put that out in the air. You'll start to hear as she starts to chant, and there's just going to be a small little like void of black tendrils that kind of start to grow in front of her lips as she's chanting. And then she's going to just kind of like blow a kiss through these tendrils. And as the kiss kind of floats out, like you blow smoke, the tendrils are just going to kind of lag behind before there is a slow, like massive orb of darkness with these big black tendrils that start to wrap around the giantess. Let me get a D20 from Rashad. And as the tendrils start to hit the giantess, she is going to. As there's a big. And this massive body falls to the ground. Rennick, what would you like to do?
I think Brannick now is going to move to follow Fen. He's going to like kind of like be waving a hand towards Felixis, like kind of like in a come here motion, like follow. But he's going to move up to join Fen. And yeah, I think he's just going to be taking the dodge action. He's not sure, but he's thinking maybe if we can just kind of get out of here.
Excellent. Let's see. Fen, roll a d20 for me. The giantess is going to continue laughing, does not get up off of the ground. Velixis, what would you like to do?
Seeing the giant laughing, but she goes ahead and just kind of tries to scampers by as quickly as possible. That'd be it for her.
If you're trying to move real quick, do you want to dash? Get more distance, Felixis?
I didn't go far enough for the dash. Yeah, I would have, but I think I did go far enough for the dash, didn't I?
What's your movement speed? Took about half.
Yeah, 50 feet, I think, is your dash. You should have 5 spaces when you're dashing.
Okay, yeah, that's right there.
Alrighty then. Felixis is making that dash action. It is going to go to Fen. As you start to head down these stairs, it never describes how many staircases there are. As you start to head down these stairs, there's going to be probably 2 or so turns as the stairs kind of double back on themselves before the next turn, where you can kind of see like just enough of the opening in this darkness that it kind of continues to the southeast. But effectively, once you kind of turn this last little like catty corner, turning about 60 degrees to your left, The darkness is just going to get pervasive around you as this room opens up, and there is nothing for you to visually bring in other than that you are in a void of no sensation from your vision. What would you like to do?
Does anybody have a torch lit right now?
I believe Brennix would be hanging out by that room. Bonus action wise, I'm not sure how many you use that you might be able to have the torch near you. But he would also be following you at this point.
Yeah, it's actually my action to control the hand.
Oh, it is the action? Yeah, so then it would definitely be closer to that room.
I feel like maybe we had 1 or 2 turns at most before things started going. Before we saw the creatures. So if anything, would probably be back by that room with the stew, like still behind the giant, I would think.
Then I'm gonna light a torch.
Gotcha. This is still enough air that it's not much problem for you to get a torch lit. As the torch starts to scatter light around, you are at the base of the staircase. There are signs of snow around this area, signs of walls to the kind of right and left of you. The walls to the right go on for a little bit further than the others. You can kind of see like the sheen and reflection of ice on the ground ahead of you. Yeah, I think that's probably about the extent of your vision at first. As far as once the light starts to scatter into this distance that you can't really see, most of that light is not going to change anything about it other than simply being able to see your initial surroundings here. And I think that'll put Fen there. Oh, almost. Oh, no, not that. There we go. Valine, what do you guys want her to do? She rushing down after Fen?
I think that makes the most sense.
So Valine can make her way down. And then Brennick, what would you like to do?
Yeah, Brannick is going to continue. Actually, Brannick's going to kind of stay about like halfway down the stairs, kind of looking back. He's actually going to hold a. What he wants to do is essentially hold a minor illusion, so that if the giant comes like to the foot of the stairs, he wants to create like a roar behind it, thinking maybe it'll turn and be distracted by that if he can do that.
Alrighty. So you're gonna wait at the base of the first set of stairs. You'll probably hear the dwindling footsteps of Fen, probably about 30 to 40 feet beyond you, down a couple more flights of stairs. You'll probably hear Valine making pretty similar distance. Let me get, I think, Justin, you're the last one who's roll it. Make a d20 for me, please. There will be a continuance of the laughter, and it will go to Velixis. Got Brennick at the base of the stairs, the giantess on the opposite side of this little stairway. Ben and Valine have kind of disappeared down past the stairways and beyond turns and twists.
She's just gonna, the ballista's just gonna continue to follow down the stairs behind everyone.
Gotcha. Are you running with them?
I am.
Bum, 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 bum. And then back onto Fen.
I think Fen will edge down to right where the ice starts and just try to peek around the corner to the left to see what he can see. We're kind of holding up and waiting for Brannick, but moving up to the corner while we're waiting.
Gotcha. So you're gonna stick against the wall that you're against, and you're gonna peek around to your left.
Correct. So yeah, I'd move up. I would actually, stay on the wall basically, and just kind of poke my head around that little nub.
Not where your token is. Gotcha. So pretty much from where you're at here, you can see there seems to be some sort of large creature just kind of around that area. Seems to be standing tall, probably at about 20 or so feet, just kind of beyond like the actual vision of the light. Um, you can see another wall or large structure off to kind of the east of that, to the right of that, kind of straight ahead while you're peeking around that wall. Um, Another structure a little bit south of that, probably about 20 or so feet away. Each of those are about 20 or so feet from the last. And then one more to kind of the southeast of you that is also about 20 or so feet away from the last. Initial kind of feeling, this might be like a 4 or 5 way hallway. And these are all different, like little like crunch points where you're not like in a doorway, but where the actual like cavern walls are coming a little bit closer around this ice. And maybe it's just like a little circular kind of like area of ice between these walled sections. But you can kind of see like 3 or so of these sections beyond just the two that are immediately inside of your light here. And with that, it would go to Valine.
I mean, I feel like she's just sticking close to Fen at this point.
Sounds good. And that would take us to Brennick. Are you going
And
to
at this,
and wait further, or
no, at this point, Brannick's gonna move down. If Fen's too far away that he's like kind of back in darkness, he'll be lighting up his own torch as he moves down.
gotcha? Yeah, you could relight a torch there to get to a different one. You would have been left in pretty much darkness there. Um, but you can basically close off to the others with like a movement. You wanted to take an action. That's lighting your torch. So that's probably your turn just to get onto the same map as the others right now. And then from Brannick, let me. I'll just roll. You guys are going to hear distant laughter from beyond. What would Valixis like to do?
She does head back, heads to walk all the way down the stairs to with Valine and Ben, and she kind of just looks around the area.
And then Fen, what are we doing?
You said I saw a creature somewhere. Was that south of where I am? Southeast?
Looking around that wall that you looked around to the north of you, effectively, as you kind of turned around the wall, you would have seen a creature like in that direction.
So I'm gonna put up the hold sign for everybody, and I'm gonna peek my head around to try to get a look and see if I can see what kind of creature it is. Or actually, I'll put up the hold sign. I'm gonna extinguish the torch and then try to stealth around the corner.
What are you actually trying to do as you stealth around the corner?
To see if I can tell what kind of creature it is.
So you're just going to step out directly on the side of that corner and take a look for it?
Correct.
All right. Roll
But
a
I,
perception at disadvantage.
yeah, I mean, I realize I put the torch out, but I'm hoping that with the torch from Brannick, there's enough light for me to try to look in there. And if not, understandable.
All of the light from him is blocked from that wall, so you are in complete darkness in that corner. Like when you snuff out the light, darkness is kind of consuming this area, kind of like that at this point. Because it's just Brennick's light from there. Even from there, it's actually closer to something like this.
Okay, in which case, I'll keep the torch lit and turn around the corner to see what I can see.
So just at the edge of the corner, it's the same view as you had before. You see something is there, but it's just beyond the actual light. You're looking at something that its color is too close to the background material. That's why I was asking, like, are you taking the light out there? Are you going to approach these things? Or this thing?
I'm going to hold here.
Gotcha. So you're stepping out with the light and you're just kind of standing there.
Yeah, stupidly.
Gotcha. Yeah, you're gonna do that, and as you kind of hold, nothing appears to happen. We're gonna go to Valine. What do you guys want Valine to do?
I think if Fen kind of gave the hold signal, she'll kind of hold where she's at, maybe kind of moving defensively, i.e., taking the dodge action.
If that sounds good for the rest of y'all, it can go to Brannick.
And Brannick will continue down the stairs. I think he's gonna approach the corner. He's still got his torch out. He's gonna kind of like be whispering towards like Fen. What do you see? Actually, I think he'll take the dodge, not dodge, dash action to move kind of kind of just to come up around beside him to essentially join him, see, what's going on, and that's it.
Shit. I probably just spoke into a muted microphone. I was saying it was kind of like a moot point whether which one of you kind of reveals a little bit more of that area. But you can now see, like, just outside of the light, there are two of these creatures that are standing basically in front of Brennick and Fen, each of them standing pretty much at attention. And they seem to stand about 20 or so feet tall, starting to make out at least humanoid kind of physicality to them. As far as things go, you guys are in a giant's castle. You have two giants in front of you. What is Velixis doing?
He just kind of walks up towards like the edge of the wall, right here, like right here behind, just to peer out, just to see what they're both looking at.
Yeah, same thing. Just outside of the light, you can see two of these bodies barely showing inside of your dark vision, as their flesh seems to be pretty much the same color as the walls all around you. In the same way that the giants you all experienced before seem to have flesh tones pretty similar to the walls all around you. Ben, what would you like to do? You've stood out, you've presented yourself. They didn't seem to react.
Are they looking at us or not even interested at all?
You didn't see any movement at all. If they're paying attention to you, they're not interested.
I think Fenn's gonna lean over to Brannick and say, "It would appear that they don't sense any inhabitants of this place, but rather the place itself. Curious." And then I'm gonna step forward like 5 feet.
Pretty much any closer, you are going to start to recognize that these are statues made out of the same stone as the walls. And as you get closer to them, that there are two giants that are guarding the door forward that is directly to the north of you. And these two giants stand at attention directly in front of you.
Here's the dark has deceived our eyes once again. Looks like it's all clear. Move up and examine the statues.
What are you looking for?
Any markings or, any obvious traps? Just looking at the area.
Roll a perception.
And I was just gonna say Brennick would be kind of moving forward too, so that with the light.
I think overall you are going to find um, the statues themselves are pretty austere, very little adornment. The door itself on this one is going to be covered in Dwarvish script. As far as translating it, none of you are going to be able to translate it, other than that it seems to be perhaps speaking about the people who lived here, their queen, and I think you'll make out that same V letter word, and this time see it as Vasavikin. I think that's probably all you guys can make out for being Dwarvish speakers. Actually, wait, Rashad has comprehend languages still going on. So once Velixis approaches it, Velixis will be able to translate it within a moment and see that the Dwarvish speaks of, "In ice and blood our folk are born. To our great queen we raise our horn. We'll fight and plunder in the morn. To Vassavictin we are sworn."
To read it out to them. She does read it out to them, let them know what is said. Afterwards, she kind of turns to that. So, do any of y'all know who Vasa Victon is?
Sounds like the queen.
I mean, obviously, but I mean, like, have any of you ever heard of this person?
Valine is going to just looking back at the stairs. We're going to have company in a few moments here. Decisions, decisions. The codicil is at hand.
At this point, I don't think she's going to stop. I think we need to hold our ground here, essentially. And Brannick is going to start moving back towards Valine.
She may be willing to answer our questions when she gets down here. For seeing she doesn't outright attack us for. I mean, because it doesn't seem like she's seen it took your attack as a threat since she was up there laughing. But I mean, we might be able to get a few answers out of her.
You do recall when she nearly sliced you in half with her axe, right?
That's all in the past.
But that was only after Velixis was stumbled upon. We still don't know if she can actually see us or our words or movement affect her at all.
I think we just need to. I just think we need to, stop her. She's going to keep coming and eventually going to run out of room or run into something else, and we don't want to be trapped between two threats again.
Are you all basically at the staircase, at the bottom of the staircase at this point? Kind of staring up into the void?
Yes, I'm at the bottom of the staircase.
I think you're going to hear from behind you, inside of the darkness, a kind of deep, low voice that's just going to kind of vibrate into all of this like crystalline structure all around you as you all hear. Have you all made friends with the Great One?
Brannick's going to kind of turn towards the voice. So I assume this is in common.
Yep.
And he's going to kind of reply, friends may be bit of an exaggeration.
We seem to have her attention, at least. Who's asking?
Fen, as you kind of like go back and like look around, where you spotted one of those little walls, that you were kind of wondering if it separated off a different like way to walk around this, like ice rink that is around this area. You're going to notice that one of those walls seems to be moving, and that's where the voice is coming from. You can kind of see that it's got a large, like, vertical mass to it. Not quite like a giant, probably about like 10 to 15 feet of like a vertical, slow, kind of big curve. And it kind of like goes down and out towards the back before kind of slimming down towards the ice. And as you kind of wonder about the size of such things, you're going to see is just kind of sliding on the ice and into the actual light of your torches. You're just going to see this massive, big brown creature with these huge ivory tusks. And you're just going to see the tusks like flutter ever so slightly as its hurt guard is ornery for those who don't belong. And you don't belong. But this creature just kind of like slides kind of from like lower left to lower right, just kind of inside of view. And you see as it seems to kind of be like looking over each and every one of you as it's just like slowly sliding. As it starts to get close to one of the walls, you hear a little bit of a scratch. You see as its massive body starts to kind of turn around, and with kind of like a push off, little bit of a scratch, it narrowly avoids the wall and just kind of like swoops out into the darkness again, kind of to the east of you all.
Brannick's going to kind of turn towards Valine and Velixis and Fen. That's, assuming that's the guard up there. I think now we've got our ire up. We're not going to stop coming after us. So kind of, what do we call you towards the creature?
I was named Akuma by the one who granted me these gifts. You see, it's like sometimes it's kind of facing you as it slides by on the ice, but it seems to be kind of like playfully just kind of hanging out in view of you all. Just kind of sliding, almost like right to left at times, sometimes kind of turning its back to you guys and actually doing like little spins and whirls. But this thing is like actively ice skating around this southern view of you. Also giving you a perception that this chamber is much larger than what you guys have seen so far. This creature is getting pretty far away from you where it has kind of a faint voice as it speaks to you. Sometimes it gets closer in a very like claustrophobic kind of like this small little tiny voice grows louder and louder as it booms closer and closer to you, and you can hear the crystalline structure of this place kind of shake with its booming voice. And then it slides away where its voice gets tinier and tinier.
Brannick is going to try and kind of like move a little closer to the voice. Would that be Ravison, one who gave you these gifts?
Roll a D100 for me. The name does not seem familiar to me.
Anga, perhaps?
I'm gonna go off the other one that you are not gonna recognize this name, and it's going to say, I was gifted speech by one of Auro's guests, a young druid, Carisi. You guys hear the footsteps coming down the stairs.
We may not belong here, but we have come with a purpose. And we were actually brought here by another creature who has gained consciousness, such as yourself, Angazut. Perhaps you can help us.
And how would you help Akuma?
If it was within our power, we would be glad to exchange favors.
What favor would you do for me?
What is it that you need?
I dearly desire friends. Would you stay here forever?
Felix speaks up. That might not be possible for us to do. But I think we would be able to visit every once in a while. But if we were to stay forever, we wouldn't be able to get our jobs done.
What is your job?
Well, we're more or less adventurers, so we kind of it just depends on what people ask of us sometimes. Um, Sometimes we help townsfolk who are being ravaged by creatures or enemies that will not leave them alone peacefully. If they have not been able to resolve it themselves, that's where we come in sometimes.
What could be more adventurous than serving Grimskull?
But let's just kind of looks at Brennick when he says Grimskull and kind of just shrugs as in to let him know I don't know who that is.
It's not who. We are in Grimskull. And you'll see as this creature's it's skating by, it kind of stands up, and it's a full like 25 feet tall head to flipper as it kind of skates on its tiny little back flippers and its main big flippers kind of extend out. It doesn't have a huge like wingspan as it extends those front flippers, but this is still a god-awful massive creature. Um, Probably still looking at a weight pretty close to, if not exceeding, Valine's. It may not be all the same size, but mass-wise, it is much larger sideways than Valine.
Well, our immediate job here is to find the Coda seal. And while it would be impossible for us to stay with you forever, perhaps we could introduce you to another of your kind, a sentient being, who I'm sure would like to be your friend. He roams the waters off this island.
Make a persuasion check. If you've come for the ride, you are here for the test. To enter the vault, you must be worthy of Aurel. And this creature's going to kind of like move to a point where it's just kind of sliding forward towards you all. Massive body, these huge giant tusks that are taller than even the elf. And it's just going to slide forward, and you'll start to see as it kind of lowers its head, you start to hear a little bit of scraping from the tusks as they kind of slide under its big, massive belly. Those who would enter the vault must be worthy.
Well, Akuma, my name is Fen. We are well met. And the worth is in the showing. One may only prove if they are worthy. Words will not do it.
Are you cruel? Can you endure? Can you weather isolation? Do you what it takes to please Ervation? And as it says Ervation, it's going to kind of raise one of its paws towards the southwest. Not paws, flippers.
Well, I can only speak for myself, but sometimes life can be cruel, although I do not believe that I am overly so. Isolation is my preferred mode. I enjoy the wilds and wildernesses away from the rest of people. And as far as can I endure, so far I have endured what I must. Again, words will not make these proofs.
I can be cruel when needs be. so I have been told.
I think looking towards the two of you as it kind of like focuses its attention a little bit down, almost doing kind of that zoomed in look where it's so much larger, it's just coming closer, and you're almost getting like one side of its face as it's looking at you from like one eye. Embrace your cruelty. Embrace the will of Arl. And as the footsteps from the stairs behind you get a little bit closer, Yakumo will kind of look up and, Edgard, you know you should not be down here. Edgard, return. And it seems to kind of like poise itself, staring to the stairs. And you're going to hear in response as let's see, yeah, the voice is going to say, in giant, Elixtus would be able to hear, there are intruders. I would have my glorious death by these who would invade Oral's hall. It may be too late before we are wont to entertain. And after a few moments, Akuma is just going to respond. Still, this would be in Giant. All three of these would have been in Giant. My apologies. Your intruders are guests of your master. They've come for her challenge. They have passed your return. Shrink. And hide. And I think the final thing you would hear in Giant for their Velixis would be kind of just a little bit of cursing, and then maybe a little bit of mumbling that you can kind of pick up. I'll never have a glorious death. And the footsteps are going to continue up the stairways.
While that conversation was going on, Bullets would have been translating the entire thing back to Brannick and to Finn, and Bullying.
So Brannick will kind of, after all this, turn and kind of nod kind of formally towards Akuma, and then kind of like gesturing off towards the southwest where it had gestured with its flipper. I presume
when you point to the southwest, it's going to say elevation.
Brannick will nod again, then look towards Fen and Velixis and kind of shall we? Kind of gesturing off towards the same direction, southwest.
Ben will hold his hand up for clarification. I do not understand what this word means. What is aeration?
To airvate. And just kind of like stares back at you.
Well, guess we'll find out when we get there. We might just have to head over there to see.
Yes, whatever it is, Fen seems like we want to. We want to see Oral. We'll have to pass this test. And the
Another
Brannick
chance
will.
to test the steel.
My bad, Don. I heard test the steel. I feel like I saw your mic was open, but I did not hear anything from you before then.
Now I was thinking what to say. I said it again, and there was a pregnant pause there. Time to test the steel again.
Gotcha.
Yes, I think Brannick will start moving down that way, southwest.
And Fen will fall by his side.
Gotcha. So I think as you all move to that kind of southwestern area towards Airvation, Akuma is going to kind of follow and kind of present you with the door. And as it kind of like points up towards this icy glass blue door, you will see in Dwarven ruins some letters that have been destroyed. The ruins are missing. And then the translation in common is for Airvation. Um, as far as what the Dwarven ruins said previously, who knows? What it says now, Airvation. The reason this creature knows what it says, because it can read it. Why it doesn't know what it really means, because it probably never saw it. As far as it goes, though, you guys can see that there is another like little cubby hole of this ice. Still has some snow that it's not all like kind of this frozen ice rink to the like west. And it is between two of these doors. The one on the northwestern side. As far as things go, I think you guys could easily pick out the ruins for that one. I believe say cruelty. I think that one's cruelty.
Is it Arvation?
Um, Ervatation.
E. Okay. Thinking, Brannick's thinking could be the end of a word. Enervation.
Yeah, so you guys can see that cruelty is in the northwestern door, and then Ervation is in the southwestern door. And what sort of thoughts do you all have at the door?
Felicia's kind of looking at it like, I hope this test is not something extreme.
Well, he mentioned cruelty. Did we Sorry, is it? So it's just the one door, but there's the two um, runes.
Well, my point was to give you the door that is the northwestern. So when you are looking at it, I guess I can see a little bit more of the actual green of the door than maybe what you guys can see.
Oh, I think I see it. Okay, so up near.
Yeah, that one's a little bit more revealed now. But that one says cruelty. That's where you just had Brennick at. This one says Erivation above the lintel.
Which door do we try first? Speaking to Fen and Blixus.
Akuma, is this where the trial begins?
Those who deem themselves worthy may enter.
If there was a third door, I said we could each just take a different door and each do a different test, but it's two doors. What we would, if one of us would be alone rather than two of us together. So I guess we could always play any, meeny, miny, more and just pick.
If you would like to face the Frost Maiden alone, there are 4 tests. You all can be as alone as you would like. Do not tempt the Frost Maiden with a good time.
My vote is for the northwest door to start.
So just to clarify, cruelty?
Yes.
Gotcha. You wanna know what the door says before you enter into it?
There's other writing.
Oh, I thought it just said cruelty.
No, that's what I mean. But you don't know what Erivation means. So there's definitely an extra variable of going for the southwestern one. You both don't know anything about the challenges, and you don't even know what the word is. All of the other 3, you at least know something about the test. It's cruelty, isolation, and what was it?
Endurance.
Endurance, yeah.
Well, the name should definitely give us a little bit of a hint as to the task. Um, would we would if we were to take the test together, do we all have to pass, or so long as one of us pass?
I think we should stick together.
I think Akuma's going to respond. Those who would test themselves against their Frost Maiden find themselves lacking. Failure is normal.
With that response, so y'all, so just going off what the tests are, I'm pretty sure endurance is something I probably wouldn't be able to last if it's something with movement, or maybe I could. Cruelty sounds like it's just enduring. I guess it may be pain wise. Isolation. Wow, that definitely sounds mental.
In the end, it makes no difference to me. Let's just choose one. I don't think we know enough about these tests or what they entail to make any kind of informed choice. Unless there's some information that you could give us, Akuma.
I am Auro's guardian of Grimscar. I am not her equal. Decisions, guys. You guys got to pick one.
Brannick is again going to reiterate his choice is for cruelty.
I guess cruelty is the way we're gonna go.
Cruelty it is.
Mara, if you're describing anything, it's not coming through.
Bitch. Yep, definitely had myself muted. The first door was, I don't know what I last said, so I'm pretty sure I had it muted when I said Valine is going to step over Brennick, pushing open that first door. I'm pretty sure I was muted for that, correct?
Yeah, I didn't hear anything
Yeah,
after we
as soon
went
as
to the door.
you said cruelty from Brennick, she was basically stepping over you and pushing through that door. If you all are then just kind of responding to it as everybody's like, okay, cruelty, cruelty, cruelty. You guys are like basically watching as she walks through this first kind of T junction beyond that first door. And she's going to walk into this next room that's kind of glowing in a blue light. You guys will eventually see the opposite side of it with another door as she's basically crossed that space while you guys are moving through that first little T junction. And she is going to kind of reach out both hands to push open this next door. And as soon as you see the door start to kind of move, she is going to just disappear in a wisp of snowflakes. And as the snow kind of like consumes her, you guys are going to see that it is now the three of you in this little room. That door is still ahead of you. It still appears to be shut. What would you all like to do?
Brannick is going to kind of approach the door, looking. Is there any more? Maybe go back to look at the other door as well, see if there's any writing on either of these. Anything further?
Um, no, I don't think you're going to be able to spot any other writing on these other than cruelty above the actual lintel, like the arch of the door on the outermost of these doors.
Well, I think Brannick is going to look towards Fen and Valixis and towards the door where Valine disappeared. But this is part of the test, and he's going to move to try and see if he can push open the door himself.
Yeah, I guess the actual room has carvings of kind of wintry scenes I don't think it adds anything to it. I don't think it's anything that you've missed to where it's going to give you anything else. But you were saying Brannick is going to push into the door as well?
Yeah.
So you will disappear into like a whirl of snowflakes. Velixis, Valine, are you two following?
Yeah, I'm following.
Yep, following behind.
Gotcha. So as you all push through and disappear into this like whirl of snow, you're going to find yourselves again inundated by this loud cacophony of blowing wind, whirling snow, cutting ice. You very quickly are going to recognize that you are no longer sheltered by any sort of building. You are once again walking in the snow. This is one of the first times that you do not have your snowshoes kind of prepared and set. Theoretically, you guys are walking around this castle right now with your crampons on, so you don't slip and fall on all of the ice. And you're very quickly going to feel that, like, with each step, you are sinking into snow. You are back into a point where you are on, like, soft crust of snow. Kind of looking around, you all are inside of a uh, blizzard that's cutting off your view in most directions, but you are probably about 30 or 40 feet away from an area where you can see at least the faintest bit of a glow, as if there were a camp ahead of you. And it is essentially like looking straight ahead is where you see anything that is different than the snow that is just kind of all around you. But as you are kind of looking forward to you, you all can effectively see the edge of a camp inside of the snowy tundra, just out of view.
Ben is going to turn to Brannick and Velixis and say, I don't like the fact that she has once again gone from docile to forceful under her own terms. Perhaps we should try to catch up with her as quickly as possible.
As you look around, all four of you are effectively in the exact same spot right now. Valine might be a little bit ahead of you, but she is adjusting in kind of the same little bit of a shock that you are now somewhere where you were not before. But when you go to look to the others, Fen, you are going to see that each of them has a small blue glowing snowflake that is just ever so slowly rotating about 4 inches above their forehead.
It appears as if some kind of magical snowflake has attached itself to your head, Brannick. Do I have one?
Brannick will look, and assuming he does, will affirm that he does.
Yep. Theoretically, with a little bit of effort, you guys could spot that the other three all have one.
Alexis will try to reach to touch the snowflake that's hovering around her head.
You can reach vaguely for your forehead, kind of assuming where the others are. Don't apparently feel anything. There's nothing to bump into. There's nothing to make you feel a little bit colder there. As far as you can tell, you're missing it. The others could confirm that you're reaching directly through it.
Some sort of mark, perhaps. We're on the test. Suggest we head for that, whatever that glow is. Seems to be the only thing different in this swirl of snow.
Agreed. And Billy starts walking towards it.
So as you all start to approach this camp, what kind of order would you like to go in? Essentially, still following Valine.
Brannick would want to be kind of trying to catch up to her. He'd be moving pretty quick, pretty kind of following her, kind of direct.
Guys going for like Mighty Ducks. We can have Brannick on one flank, Fen on the other flank, and then Valixis following. Go with the Killer V, the Deadly V. I don't remember what they called it.
Flying V, I think.
Flying V.
Sounds reasonable.
Sounds good.
Gotcha. So as you all walk forward, you're going to find yourselves walking pretty quickly into a camp of yurts. All of you have at least a little bit of a familiarity with the way that the people of Icewind Dale live, and most specifically, it will connect the dots that you are walking into a nomadic tribe here. These are not permanent buildings. They are mostly made out of animal skins. Like some of them are braced with like tusks and kind of ivory and bone. But in general, these are like snow structures that are reinforced with hides. And you're kind of walking in them. You'll pass one on the right, one on the left. It's got the highest passive. Fen would notice that there's a couple of sleds between two of these different huts. Walking through, no sound of dogs. If you continue marching through, kind of continuing, looking for a little bit more signs of happenings, you may at some point basically come to a shelter that seems to be letting out the light that has kind of drawn your attention to this area. It seems to be a larger structure, like a larger yurt that might have like twice the capacity, almost like 40 feet in diameter instead of say like 20 feet in diameter. Seems to be kind of radiating a little bit of glow from like the cracks that are on kind of the leeward side of the wind. So like facing against the wind, there's a little bit more light kind of scattering out of this place. You guys can hear there is activity inside of this tent as you approach it.
Does anything about this camp remind us of the camp that we were in before with Johan, the tiger tribe?
I would say you're gonna pick up some of the vibes as to nomads. As to whether it's the tiger tribe, don't know if you guys know enough about the nomads to really pick out one from the next until you see them utilizing tigers effectively.
Yeah, that's true. We haven't seen another one to compare it against. So
Yeah. So that's the big thing there. That's why I was trying to say you can pick out that it's nomadic. You can see signs that these are not like permanent lodgings. And that's where it kind of separates them at least a little bit from the other peoples of Icewind Dale and takes it a little bit more towards the aboriginal people of Icewind Dale, the nomads.
Frank's going to glance towards Fen and Valixis, then towards the opening. It's like a tent flap, I guess. Kind of give a nod, like suggesting we should go in.
We should probably knock first. Don't want to just intrude. Not sure who's inside.
I think we're beyond politeness at this point.
Hard to knock on canvas.
Valine's just going to yell out, "You there! We've come to free you. Kind of look back towards everybody, like, with a wry little smile, like, eh? Eh? And then she's just going to kind of, like, reach open this little gap. She cannot fit inside of this tent, not through this opening. But she's going to look in as she kind of, like, drags the flap away. You'll see a bunch of people are reacting to whatever is going on. Surprise, panic, people who are freezing. There's a lot of reactions in the immediate view as she kind of yells this out and opens the like hide that covers the entrance.
Brannick is going to, as she's opening it up, is going to move to step in. Kind of like, do not panic as he's walking in.
Roll a perception or an intuition as you step in. Do you think you're getting more about how people are acting or what you see them acting? What do you think Brennick's kind of thought would be as you're stepping in here?
I think he's almost he's more focusing on like the vibe of the not so much like looking at flying face to face, but like, I don't know, almost you can like almost like feel tension in a room kind of thing. So
That's
maybe
insight.
more.
That's insight. That is perfectly functional. Kind of taking a little bit of like the immaterial and trying to make a little bit of sense out of it.
Yeah, like you walk into a room and you know like you're not welcome or you're welcome, just kind of like instinctively kind of thing. Yeah.
So maybe overall kind of oblivious to what is happening here, but as all of this panic kind of sets in, you stepping in and perhaps simply that they're no longer staring down face to face with a giant. Everybody seems to be reacting a little bit differently here. But as soon as Brennick kind of steps in, there's going to be kind of a hush and a quiet. And as you kind of look around, there's probably about like say 20 or so people who are inside of this tent. And among the people who is at least gathering this silence, for whatever reason for you, you see one man who stands just under probably like 8 feet tall, and he's got both of his arms kind of extended out to the side, and he's like palm down, almost like pushing down on the air. And you can see he's trying to calm all of the people with these like outstretched arms, and he's speaking to them to calm, calm. Are the others following Brennick inside?
Yeah, I'm right behind him.
Following in.
As silence kind of sits over the others, you hear like the whirl of wind from outside. There's that cold kind of like bite to your nose as Valine's still kind of like looking in from outside, almost blocking off the wind with her face and her just physicality. But it's definitely still there. It's definitely still loud. And this figure is looking over you all as silence kind of goes over all of the humans who are inside of this. The emissaries of Oral are welcome here in the Bear Tribe. And as he kind of leans down, he's going to draw his blade and sink this massive falchion sword down into the snow. And as he takes a knee and still stands almost as tall as Brennick while on his knee, with his hands kind of in fists overlapping one another at the hilt of the blade, his forehead is almost going to touch that hilt as he says, Roggenson, Gunwald, guide me. We lack food. Would you do us the kindness of slaying these four for our next meal. And as he kind of raises his right hand, 4 people are going to step forward. They're all kind of like shaking with fright, visibly afraid, but also kind of in that taken in the moment. They're still surrounded by people who should be their family. They're still outnumbered, but they're still people who value their lives.
Felix just kind of looks stunned. At this guy, what do you mean slay these four? Are you asking us to kill them so that you can eat them?
Brank is going to try to kind of like side whisper to Velixis. We know world demands sacrifices. I forget why we are here.
We have no food. We've eaten our dogs. There is death or death in front of us. We had this decision, and you walked in. Gift us with your grace. Show us we are on the right path, that Aro may bless us.
Just a minute. And Velixis will kind of turn to Finn and Brannick, and in a whisper, it's like, surely we can find other food around here for them to eat so that they don't have to slay their own kind. This ain't right.
He's going to stand up, sheathing his sword, stepping over to the first of these people, who's a little old, frail woman, and he's going to say, Ionia, my father's wife, as he kind of bows his head.
A few must die to save the tribe. Velixis.
A few. A few now, and then a few more later, and then what?
As he moves over to the next person, Devraj, our most senior of elders.
You cannot save everybody, Velixis. Learned that in 10 towns.
Going to step over to the next one, who's a small little girl who's probably about half his size. And he's going to kind of raise her up in a single arm as he kind of looks her in the face. And with a little like wry smile, Anastasia, my firstborn.
With the response from Brennan, how dare you? In 10 towns, we had a chance to try and save them. But if I recall, you two didn't even try. I was drug away at my will because y'all were too afraid to fight.
Not afraid, simply not willing to throw my life away for a unwinnable cause.
But you're quick to sacrifice 4 people for a measly meal? we could probably easily go out and hunt for these people.
These people live in these lands. Surely, if they could hunt, find a meal, they'd have done so.
We have hunted and survived in these lands for more generations than we know how to count. Our hunters have not returned. The blizzard holds fast. Death or sacrifice. And he's going to lean over again as he puts his hands on the shoulders of the next person. Yar. Mother to our shaman.
With his response, Velissa's going to look back at Brandon. Well, he said their hunters have not returned and that they've hunted in this land a long time. Clearly, there's food out there. It's just a blizzard in a way. We've been in a blizzard for a long time, and it didn't stop us from hunting. We didn't eat each other, so why should we be so quick to let them eat each other? I say we go out and try to find their hunters and their food, and some food for them, and bring it back.
Brennet's going to look towards Fen. What say you, Fen? You don't forget why we are here.
I've in mind with Elixis. So they kill 4 now, and what happens next week? They kill another 4 and another 4 until one is left and will starve because he is by himself. You're delaying the inevitable. We should either kill them all or try to provide an alternative. Whether that's finding the hunters, I know not. Perhaps with some more conversation, we might be able to find out. But to kill an innocent girl for, like I said, it would be less cruel to kill them all than to kill just 4.
How so?
Well, like Felixa said, so they kill 4 this week until what? What is going to change that's going to make 4 sacrifices allow them to continue to live here?
If game is scarce, it may be because they displeased Oral. Oral requires a sacrifice to have them back in her good graces. That seems to be how things work around here. Seen?
Well, from where I look, he's a stout man. Let him do his own killing. I'll not judge, but I won't participate.
You are the one who would need to save your tribe. Agree with that, Fen. Look, yeah, see that first part towards the big guy.
You have come from Oro, but will not save us. The sacrifice does not please you.
So Brannick will take a deep breath and look towards Ben and Velixis.
My bad. I don't know if it did not come through, but Fen is gone.
Oh,
Fen
Ben
did-
disappeared?
Yep. As soon as Fen said, "I will not take part," or whatever he said, he disappeared. The last thing Don said, Fen disappeared.
Oh crap. Okay, yeah, that did not come through.
Okay, that might have changed Brannick's response then.
I mean, it works enough that you could have been saying that to Fen, and then you look over and you see that he's gone. Because I already gave you the response to what you said. So his question still kind of lingers. You're not going to help them?
How were these four chosen? Essentially,
They are all elders and those of high rank in the bear tribe to please you, to please our frost maiden, to please Arl. And he's going to again kind of like pointing towards his daughter. My daughter? What is it? My father's wife? Our most old and renowned of sages, and the mother of the bear shaman. None are meaningless sacrifices. We give our best for you to look at us with pleasure.
Brannick's going to look back towards Velixis now that Fen is gone. His simple issue of numbers. If some must be sacrificed for the greater good, that is the way of the world. He's going to move forward. Sort of move forward towards the man and maybe Ionia. He's going to kind of, as he reaches them, wait and kind of look back again towards Velixis.
Velixis is actually going to step in between. This is cruel. Why are we sacrificing these people?
Felix is going to disappear.
Oh,
Looks like we got the right man for the job.
Brannick is going to I think he's going to pull out his own dagger and kind of look towards the woman, kind of like steeling himself.
She'll tilt her head back.
Know that your sacrifice will not be in vain. And then I think he will kind of with another deep breath and then just like in kind of like a pause and then in one quick motion go to slit her throat.
As you like pause in that moment, she'll reach forward with her kind of left hand and kind of like grasping the lower like end of your skull, like behind your head, pulling you in closer, bringing the blade in deeper into her neck, and with little more than like a little gasp, she's going to die silently. And then you'll see as his daughter steps forward. Oh, wait, my bad. The next one is the elder of the tribe, Devraj, will step forward, presenting his neck to you.
So I think Brannick will do the same thing. He's gonna like kind of almost steal a glance over towards the child, because that's the one thing that he's definitely hesitant about. He essentially he wants to he's trying to steel himself up for that, but he's gonna go, with the three oldest ones first.
Gotcha. So Anastasia will step up to you next, and she'll kind of look back to her father with like a kind of guilty, almost tear in her eye as you step away from her. But you can end the air. And then do you go back to Anastasia?
And then so Devrash and then Yair. Um, he's gonna go back. I feel like even Brannick, as cold-hearted as he is gonna have some hesitation about killing a child, but
If I didn't make it a child, would there have been a hesitation?
much less.
Gotcha. That could just be me being a very dark and gray person. I
Oh no, it's
definitely
like
applied.
I,
It's not
I
normally a
personally,
child in the test.
yeah, I personally have no issue. It's Brannick. I'm just trying to kind of role play his hesitation with that.
Does he eventually go through with it? Or does at some point he say, I'll never do this?
I think he will eventually. He's thinking this is the test, and his idea of self-preservation, thinking this is what they need to do, is going to win out, and he'll do it.
Roll a dexterity saving throw for me. So, as you're kind of like lost in this last application of Arl's cruelty, Valine from behind you will kind of say, You've done well, friend, but you don't need all of the blood on your hands. And she's going to step through, and I'm not going to describe it, but she does some pretty horrific shit using her giant strength. It is a very unfriendly scene, but she is going to extinguish Anastasia before you can hurt her, and the two of you are going to disappear. Well, you will quite quickly see the other two people standing inside of this hallway, and all four of you are back inside of the relative silence of this fortress. You have a closed door off to the northwest of you, and you have another room to the southeast of you, and the door out to the main area. What would you all like to do?
So as we return, Brannick is going to look and see, are the snowflakes still floating above the others' heads, and he'll ask, like, or my head?
Looking around, no one has a snowflake over their head.
So I think Brannick will also kind of ask, like, what happened, like, how long, did they just come back where they were?
As far as the other two go, Fen just decided that he would not hurt anybody, and that's when he saw all of you. As far as Valixis knows, she decided she was not going to hurt anybody, and that is the same moment that she's seeing all of you. You just went to extinguish Anastasia, and this is the first moment that you are seeing everybody. and Valine just did what Valine did, and this is the first moment that she's coming to. But as far as like Fen, would not recognize any time having elapsed where he was effectively inside of like a void.
Gotcha.
Melissa would kind of turn and begin to just leave the room and head back out towards the other open room.
You'll pretty quickly see Akuma is outside in that area. Assuming one of them comes out with light, rather.
Yeah, Brannick will follow. Is the room like still glowing? Do we sense any change as we're leaving?
The sponsons are still lit. Yes. Yeah. I would say once everybody leaves the door, the second doorway, the one with cruelty over the lintel, I like the idea that entire section is going to kind of freeze up with ice, where you might not necessarily notice too much more than just kind of like the crackling of like a flash freeze around the door. But like if you guys were to try to move that or actuate that door is frozen shut.
Felix's would approach Akuma. So we finished this test. Are we done with them?
I would think perhaps we need to pass all four, but he's gonna. Is Akuma? If Akuma's still there, Brannick's gonna glance towards Akuma. Is that how it works?
With the four blessings of our own, the vault is yours.
Brannick will kind of give a grateful nod, turn back, and seems we would have 3 more tests then. Oh, and Brennick is also curious as he like just thinks of it as he walks back out. He's going to kind of like look over his blade, and if it is still bloody, kind of move to wipe it off. You see, and he definitely got a little bit of a queasy look on his face.
Yeah, you'll see there is indeed blood on the blade.
All right. Well, Felix's will turn towards him. Well, if we need to take more tests, fine. I will head for the test of isolation. You two can choose another test.
You want to face that test alone.
Is that a problem? She says as she starts to walk away.
I'm not sure it's wise.
Doesn't matter if it's wise, as long as the test is passed and our goal is achieved, correct?
What if you fail? Does that doom the rest of us? Much rather look out for a party together.
Then I suggest you pass the test you choose.
What do you hope to gain by leaving us? Perhaps our future partnership requires that we all try these tests. I trust Brennick more for his dedication to the Codicil, then I would trust you.
But looks like
Why? Go ahead.
Felix will look towards the command. Do we all have to pass each test, or do the tests just need to be passed by each of us? And so long as one of us passes the test, will that be good?
So long as you all live.
Brannick's gonna kind of gesture back towards the now kind of seemingly frozen up wall. What should happen should you fail and we no longer have access? Again, I think our best odds are to stay together.
So what do you say, friends? Isolation? Endurance? Enervation?
I am fine with isolation next.
Isolation it is. Eveline will look over to Akuma. And which one is isolation? And Akuma will kind of like wave over to the east and in a pretty similar way kind of escort you all to the entrance for isolation. So pretty similar setup here. You guys have the one door with the name isolation over the lintel. Push it open. You have another area that kind of extends ahead, opening up a little bit, shrinks back down, opens up around two golden beers that are burning like this blue-white light, with another door just beyond them to the southeast. Do you all enter through the doors? Is anybody hesitating? Is everybody going? Are you sticking together?
Yes, we're all going together.
So,
Felix was a little hesitant since she wanted to just go in alone without the others, but she needs to follow through with them.
how hesitant are you?
As they pass through the door, she actually looks down and is kind of lost in thought for about 3 minutes, actually. For looking.
Alrighty. So Velixis, you are not going to take part in this. Fen, Brennick, and Valine, you all are going to walk through this doorway. And as same kind of function when you are in that room with the two sponsons of glowing white blue light, when you go to push on that next door, pushing on the doorway kind of increases like a wisp of blizzard and snow around you to where you are going to disappear. You are going to find yourself once again completely isolated inside of a snowy expanse, blizzard raging all around you, not much for you to experience or see. And it will kind of clear to a point where once again you see snow all around you and a faint glow of light ahead of you. Pretty similar situation where you are just outside of view of whatever might be ahead of you. You have a pretty solid understanding as you're sinking in the snow, as you're getting bit by the cold, that all over again, you are in the middle of Icewind Dale, somewhere next to a tribe of nomads, and you are outside of their camp. What would you guys like to do?
Brannick is so we're still together at this point though, right?
3 of you. There is no Velixis. Velixis did not enter in time.
So Brannick is going to kind of like to Fen and Valine kind of gesture towards the glow, and seems like that's our destination, and he will start trudging in that direction.
Ben follows.
So within a few moments of kind of entering the edge of this camp, you're going to start to hear calls from all around you. You are going to start to hear the roar of lions and cats. It is going to quickly come to you that you are walking into the tiger tribe. These are the people of Johann, and these are the people who you fought Solvastadr and killed Bjornhild. As you approach, you are going to start to walk inside of the camp, getting closer to, again, a very similar structure of a central tent with the leeward facing side leaning like towards you, and that is the side that is kind of letting off this light that is almost like glowing up into the blizzard around you. And by the time you are looking at this this yurt, you have a circle of warriors who have surrounded you, and they are around you on all sides. As they bring you inside of this tent, you are going to hear from within a deep male voice who says, "Emissaries of Ar, you are welcome. I, Kama, Valtus, leading warrior of the Tiger Tribe. You are too kind to grace us with your presence." And as you kind of walk in, you'll see that this is a much smaller tent. It probably has like 15 or so people in it, but you can kind of see centrally, kind of seated high, is this figure who's speaking to you, who's probably about like a 7 or 8 foot tall, a little bit smaller than, what was the last guy? Bjorn? No, Gunvald. A little bit smaller than Gunvald, wielding a pretty similar axe that you all would probably recognize as Bjornhild's axe. And he kind of sits at the center of this camp, and he is kind of just looking towards you, and you can just hear this like slow scraping as he's dragging a stone across the blade of his axe to look towards you. And again, Arl has blessed us. The Frost Maiden has sent emissaries. Watch our camp as we raid in your glory. And he'll look to you all with that kind of question hanging in the air.
Brannick will kind of nod. He'll, I think, as the man introduces himself, kind of introduce himself as well, Brannick. And then when he says, watch our camp as we raid in your glory, Brannick will say, kind of do another nod, and I look forward to seeing what tribe can do.
So as he kind of like steps up and approaches you with like a big like slap to your shoulder, he'll kind of look down towards you, Brennick, with like this big old face. It's still a humanoid general size face, but he's got a monstrous visage. And he just looks down at you with like the most playful of smiles. This like 35, 40-year-old man who's like battle hardened just smiles down at you with like this playful little child's smile of purity as he says to you, "The elk tribe has no chance to our blades. The snows will be red for you tonight." And he's going to step out. And then as he steps away, the others are going to follow. And after a few minutes, this camp is going to be empty. Velixis, you hang out. 3 minutes goes by. You go to step inside. What has been going through your head?
She's just been thinking about, honestly, she's been thinking about the entire journey up to this point and the decisions that the group has made, the lives lost and everything. She's just like, she's wondering what she should do in regards to this because it seems more like it seems more like their lives lost than any saved.
Gotcha. So when you turn around and you decide to push through to rejoin your friends, that door is closed. There's no way through it. You can go backwards, but apparently you cannot go forwards.
She she looks towards the other two tests, and while she sits there, she's actually contemplated walking through one of the doors.
Okay. Well, let me know when something happens, and I'll come back to you shortly here.
Alrighty.
As you all get left behind, what sort of things do Brennick, Ben, and Valine do?
So Brennick's looking towards Fen because he's not sure if the intent was for them to. Oh wait, no, he said watch our. Well, Brennick's not sure if that means they should go with them or wait for their return. It's kind of like trying to like Fen. Are we supposed to go with them?
Shit, my bad. I'm sorry for coughing there.
That's all right.
My understanding was we were to guard the camp while they were out. Perhaps we should patrol the camp.
Brennick will nod and makes sense to me, and we'll follow Fen's lead here.
Gotcha. So you guys start patrolling. You kind of mix things up between the three of you, at times keeping a patrol. 8 hours is going to go by. 16 hours is going by. 24 hours is going by. Blizzard is still raging around you. Doesn't seem like anything is happening. You don't see signs of anybody coming back. Raiding party could be gone for a day or two, probably without a problem. After the first day, anything going to change for you guys?
Brennick's going to start looking around for some food in camp. Are we getting like normally hungry, thirsty, that sort of thing as this time passes?
Yeah, as far as that goes, you would at very least be having rations. As far as finding things in camp, I think it's acceptable to say that there's like raw blubber and kind of things like survival food for Arctic situations.
Gotcha. So, well, yeah, in that case, he might just probably stick towards his rations, and he'll probably start to get a little bored after the first day of like not seeing anything. So he might be less enthusiastic about patrolling, but he otherwise will kind of continue to follow Fenn's lead here.
And Fen, do you think you are still on kind of patrolling, watching style?
Yeah, I mean, what else is there for us to do?
Oh, I mean, it's up to you guys. If you wanted to like take some of the bones of kills that they had and you want to start carving it, you could do that. It's simply tell me what you're doing. You're just in the middle of the Arctic.
Patrolling. As far
Gotcha.
as far as Sven knows, that's what we're trying to do.
Let me get survival wisdoms from both of you, please. Rashad, roll a d20 for Valine, please. Alrighty. So at some point in the day, no, it was a survival. Wisdom worked. Survival worked on that first one. Yeah. At some point during the day, Valine and Fen are going to notice that Brennick has gone missing. As you all kind of continue about your day, looking around for him, patrolling as normal, you don't ever again see any signs of Brennick. Still patrolling about that day, still going otherwise about guarding the camp.
Well, with Brennick disappearing, that would kind of change things. So I think Fen would make sure that he and Valine are patrolling together. And
Gotcha.
keep it up.
Let me get another wisdom from you, and then either Rashad or Brennick. Can I have a d20? First of you to roll it as the one that counts. At some point during the second day on patrol, Ben, you are alone. There is nobody else in this camp. Just you. Still otherwise going about your patrols as normal? Are you changing anything as you find yourself isolated and alone?
Fen will be disconcerted, but due to the nature of the challenges so far, is just going to keep up the routine.
My bad. Let me get a wisdom saving throw from Brennick. And let me have one from just roll a d20 for me, Don. +4. I think that is a D100 from both of you, please. Brennick, you are going to come out of a weird cognitive void space. Physically, you don't know what happened to your body. Mentally, you were attentive for almost a 10-day of being completely isolated and alone. your madness that you are going to have indefinitely is, I am convinced that powerful enemies are hunting me, and their agents are everywhere I go. I am sure they are watching me at all times. As far as I'm concerned, that's the Arcane Brotherhood. If you want that to not be the Brotherhood, that's fine. But I feel like as far as who Brennick is, that kind of fits perfectly. That you basically think the Arcane Brotherhood are onto you, they are searching for you. Perhaps this group that has kind of gotten so close to you, but at very least you're kind of in that like tinfoil head, always looking over your shoulder, always seeing people who are tailing you, following you. That is just a part of who Brennick is now. Please try to play that out.
Will do. I think that that makes sense too. Just as he was already a little paranoid to begin with. It's just threw it into overdrive.
And then the other one was 67. I am the smartest, wisest, strongest, fastest, and most beautiful person I know. Feline already believes that, so nothing's going to change there. So as far as things actually stagger with that, let's see. I think, what is Velixis doing in like the first hour of being here alone? What are you doing after those first few minutes?
She at some like halfway through, she actually did flip a coin to decide whether or not to go through one of the doors. She flipped one of her copper coins. If it came up tails, she wasn't going to go through the doors. It did come up tails. She did flip another coin to decide future events for herself, but I'm gonna have to whisper those to you. Right now, she's actually just polishing the skulls and horns that she has with her.
Gotcha. What do you mean future events?
Uh, like, crud. Yeah, see, I'm gonna have to whisper that to you, otherwise I'm gonna give too much away.
All right. Well, it sounds to me like you're getting close to Velixis becoming my NPC and you rolling a new character. Because if Velixis doesn't have a reason to adventure with these crews, with this crew, I need you to roll a character who has a reason to adventure with them. Otherwise, you're like about to write Velixis out of the story, and she'll become my NPC. That's the biggest thing that I will throw there. I'm gonna say it's about an hour after they disappeared that they are going to come out. As far as this goes, again, this is the level of Fen, 0 time differential. You spent like 10 days inside of that camp, about 8 of it alone, walking around in isolation. At some point you remember Brennick was there, and then Brennick disappeared. You don't remember when he disappeared. And it's the same thing for Valine. You remember having the thought that you should never leave Valine's side, and then you remember the day that you were reminiscing, like, I swear Valine was here with me. And then, like, there's another 8 days of isolation. As far as Brennick goes, he remembers those, like, 8 days or 9 days of being isolated and alone in darkness, with essentially 0 physical sensation, entirely mental kind of scape there, but like nothing to perceive. And Valine has a very similar situation where she was in essentially the same kind of limbo. When you all come to, though, it's the same type of thing where you're like walking out of that doorway together, and it's a weird little recognition. You all see Velixis kind of outside of those gates. As far as Velixis knows, an hour passed in the time that Ben was gone for 10 days.
So, what was your test this time?
Mara, I just have a quick question. Does the Brannick's madness extend to possibly thinking that like Fen or Valixis or Valine are these enemies, or is it kind of is he still sane enough to know that they, you know?
That's kind of where I leave it up to if you don't want it to be Arcane Brotherhood related, because it might be problematic. I feel like the Arcane Brotherhood just simply fits because of how central they are to your story. Um, and it feels kind of like Brennick is in a weird level of perhaps like self doubt, like whether what you're doing is good or bad for what you've always wanted. That's why I kind of leave it open towards you. I think if you allow it to be Arcane Brotherhood, it'll probably create issues with both Dazan in your head as well as Valine. Because you know those people are Arcane Brotherhood. If you allow it to be some other faction, it might be creepy type of thing. But I think if you went for some other faction, like if it was the Zentarum, you would just see Zentarum everywhere. You don't necessarily have to see them in the group. I would be inclined to say just like with kind of edgelords, where it's like this is the group that brings you out of your shell. So like allow yourself to be paranoid about everybody who is not part of this group.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think Arcane Brotherhood makes sense. I just wasn't sure if it like went so deep that like now all of a sudden I think like maybe Fen or Elixis is working for them or something. But I think it Valine definitely and
I
Design,
think
yeah.
that would be more interesting if this were a book rather than you guys shared storytelling. I think
Yeah,
there's
yeah, yeah. I
definitely a
agree.
certain detriment to having like this close to the end of the campaign. Realistically, if you start to see that inside of the group, it's the exact same conversation is, did we just kill Brennick because he got that and you need to roll a new PC because he effectually can't function in this group? That's why I would be hesitant to say you should see that in the actual people who are Arcane Brotherhood, let alone in your party, because I feel like that could be a death sentence to Brennick.
Yeah, I agree. That makes sense. I just wanted to, yeah, just kind of clarify that.
Now, if you wanted to have a um Hulu level like mental breakdown and Brennick does kind of melt down, I'm not saying that wouldn't be a good end to your character, but I think that would be an anticlimactic end to your character. And that's why I put that all on you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
As far as things go, I was already kind of tempted to do the meet and greet afterwards, but I feel like this is a solid time for us to call it and have you guys kind of make some recognitions of what has happened next session, picking up with you all kind of immediately being reunited.
Yeah, that works for me.
All right.
Yeah, sounds good.
Because I did not take a break, and I definitely need to run away at present. If you guys end up having questions and you end up hanging out here, I will be back shortly, but I do need to go use the restroom.
All right.
Interesting couple of tests.
Definitely. I'm just like these are next two tests. I'm like, uh, I know for certain Valixis would not be able to do it with the endurance one, just from the name of it.
Well, I think the interesting thing out of character too is that, like in Fen's mind, when we came out of the first trial, it's because he said he wouldn't do it, and that's the reason why we succeeded the trial. We never really talked about the details, or Brannick didn't offer up to be like, "Hey, you disappeared, and this is what happened." Like, if nobody talks about it, everybody thinks that their choice is the one to trigger the success of the trial.
Oh, so I was almost thinking like, so like when Brenna came out, I had him like kind of like looking at his dagger to see if there was actual blood on it, and then going to kind of wipe it off. And I was almost kind of like leave that implied as, yes, he went through with it, and that's why there's blood on the blade.
I almost think that's kind of one of those gray area points where, like, when you guys have time to unwind and like try to rest, Brennick might open up and share that information. But it's one of those weird little levels, like, unless Brennick is specifically hiding something, everything that you guys heard, even though you weren't there, at some point we should assume that Brennick shares. But again, I always kind of incline those towards when you're like hanging out around a campfire. I love the idea of calling those campfire talks, where you're like cutting it up and you pick up the little things. Like I like that, like Valixis was kind of translating the giant like mid conversation. But a lot of those things you get more clarity when you're hanging out, and Valixis can give like a little bit more of like a type, like a court style like transcript.
Yeah, and I think Brennick would, when like if Fenn asked, or if there was, at some point he would kind of share what happened. Because the reason I had him kind of looking at the blade, because he was almost hoping it was some sort of like illusion that, like, they'd have to go through the test, but it didn't actually happen, kind of thing. And maybe then that's also kind of why he looked a little queasier after he kind of saw the blade and that there was actual blood on it, kind of thing.
Yeah, after two of the trials, I think it would be pretty clear to yourselves that you all are actually being transported out of Grimskull. You are being sent to these camps. And like you actually exist in those camps. Um as far as things go, I'd like to have the little bit of time dilation in that, because I'm pretty sure Valixis is dead if Valixis spends 10 days in Grimskull alone. I don't know how not to effectively kill you off by oral, like walking by and having a one-on-one encounter. This is one of those places where splitting the party isn't as simple as saying I need to jump back and forth between the different groups. It's definitely a really weird place to have a split party. I think the time dilation solves that issue, but the loophole of things might feel a little bit less real, but things feel very real.
Yeah, she was just, for that hour. She's just been kind of in her thoughts about things. So she's definitely she's definitely contemplating things.
Well, I felt like you were building towards a retirement of Elixis from everything with the dragon before. I don't feel like either you or your character Valixis were necessarily prepared. I'm not sure which one it is for the dark choices that have to be made. And this is meant to be a horror campaign of the likes of Curse of Strahd. Um, to me, the reason why I originally like fell in love with this campaign when I've heard one description of it, that this is the thing from outer space. I love that this campaign can be likened to the thing. Those are three of my favorite movies. Every single time it's been done,
You
it
know,
is.
as soon as you were getting ready to say that, my mind was like, dude, it's the thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that is why this movie or this game, it's really, really hard to constantly drill in this like um claustrophobic feel of being isolated in this place, of it being dark, of unnatural blizzards. One of my other groups would always joke, every time we leave the house, it's always a blizzard. And it's like, yeah, that's supposed to scare the shit out of you because you know it's not natural.
Yeah, it's like Chinese water torture. At first, it's fine, but then it just starts building, and then you're insane.
Yeah, and it's
Right.
a weird aspect of like, I don't want to constantly say it over and over again, but I want it to be assumed sometimes. It's part of why light, I think, is so important in this one. I'm not a huge fan of dark vision because a lot of people use it as a reason to just never fuck with lights. I think there's funny stuff that can happen about that, but I definitely feel like this campaign needs that very human feel of being afraid of the dark.